Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on Citizen Assembly Women. We will get started by sharing some opening notes on meeting etiquette. So please give me a moment. I'll start sharing my screen. Okay, so our schedule today, we will start with meeting etiquette, introductions, your name, location, place of origin, and 2 words to describe yourself. Then the idea of the day will be presented, followed by a simple vote. Then we will discuss in relation to the idea being presented. We will vote again and end with closing comments. So for our meeting etiquette, please remember, number 1, we are here to empower and encourage one another by coming together authentically. Number 2, we encourage political, philosophical, artistic, and experiential ideas. No topic is off limits. All ideas will be treated with consideration. 3, all ideas will be written as a plain text document and published for others to see. We provide a platform for this process at agora-ilp.org. 4, we all have a voice here. Type hand up in the chat when you want to talk. Please be respectful. Wait your turn and be patient while others speak, and refrain from profanity. Our network is inclusive, but trolls may need to be dismissed. 5, we encourage connections outside of the group. Use the chat for this purpose for group side conversations and for any initiatives or resources you may support. 6, please share any benefit you receive in this group with others by sharing on social media and or by word of mouth. 7, to fully participate in our meetings, register for Agora at agora-ilp.org. CitizenAssembly.net has a calendar with upcoming meetings. To stay connected, join our Facebook group, Citizen Assembly, at this web address right here. Okay. So with that, we will continue with introductions. Name, location, and our place of origin, and 2 words to describe how you are feeling in this moment. So I'll start by saying my name is Lois Diggs. I am now in Norfolk, Virginia, United States. 2 words to describe myself in this moment. I am feeling, I have a feeling of freshness and curiosity. So, Kay, will you please introduce yourself?
Yes, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name is Kay, and I am in San Jose, California, United States. And 2 words to describe me is, well, I'm warming up now. It's a little chilly in my home. And I'm also excited about today's topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kay. Stacy, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Stacy Gustafson. I split my time between Northern Michigan and Southwest Texas, and I am really happy to be presenting this idea today. I had the opportunity at the beginning of this idea way when Lois took over Citizen Assembly Women. It was just a little teeny idea, and it has grown through Citizen Assembly into what I will be showing today, and I'm really happy about that. So thanks.
It's interesting to hear about the growth and evolution of your idea. We look forward to hearing about it in a few minutes. All right, Kat Newman, will you please introduce yourself to the group?
I'm Kathleen Newman, and I'm located in Stockport, United Kingdom. I'm originally from Hollywood, California. Describe myself in this moment. I'm just hopeful and looking forward to next week.
Thank you, Kat. It's good to have you here. Cesare, will you please introduce yourself to the group?
I'm Cesare Jurevich, outside of Chicago. 2 words to describe myself: irritated and frustrated because I can't get my phone to do something I wanted to do that it used to do. It used to do it just fine until I did downloaded a new browser and now it's messed up everything. So
Well, I hope your phone issue gets resolved sometime in the future, but in the meantime, thank you for your time and attention here in Citizen Assembly Women. All right, Tue, will you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Trey, and I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California. And two words that describes me today would be curious. I'm curious because of this event. I want to find out what's going on. And the other word is hopeful because I have a lot of stuff I need to get it done by today. And so I'm hopeful that I can be able to finish all my work.
Very good. Thank you for your presence here, Tue. Rosemary, will you please introduce yourself to the group?
Hi, I'm Rosemary Rajwant. I'm in the Caribbean in Grenada. And this is the first Citizen Assembly Women's meeting that I'm attending, but I attended lots of Citizen Assemblies about a year ago. So I'm really happy to see that it's evolved quite a bit. And I think I'm supposed to say 2 words. I'm restful. I feel pretty calm and relaxed. And I'm also kind of optimistic because I feel like there are going to be lots of really great collaborations and really good ideas coming out of all of these meetings.
Excellent. Well, if you've attended a year ago, a very warm welcome back. Good to see you here. Okay, so now we will go into Stacy's presentation for today on her idea of an autonomous community marketplace. So Stacy, you have the floor. You can share your screen and share your idea.
All right. My idea is self-governing autonomous community economies to enable an equal chance of success for all. There is a lot more detail on this idea, but I'm just going to read what's bolded for brevity. You can visit the website. It is under construction right now, oneworld411.com. That is the website that hosts the marketplace and the community project there. So what if the goal is a happy, healthy family? Communities are fractured and unhealthy. People do not even know how to connect anymore. Capitalism has become unstable. The resulting policies have become increasingly non-capitalistic and harmful to the population as a whole. Companies, sellers of products and services, spread fear in order to sell products. Fix those wrinkles or you won't get a job or be loved. Buy her a diamond ring or she will think less of you, or worse, she won't love you. You might blink too much, take this drug, or risk social consequences. Self-reliant communities are needed to minimize money reliance. We all seek aspirational and contributional opportunities more than economic and job opportunities. Neighbors want to help each other, cook, clean, fix, build, help. Let us take care of each other without middlemen. We can run a free market economy in parallel with a community economy. Even with a declining economy, people would be actively engaged to ensure human needs are being met. The solution? The Universal Community Project and Healed Earth Marketplace. And the inspiration for this was one idea. It was written by Ilya Deroche in the Agora Marketplace, Stock Market of Ideas. And he just believed that people should be rewarded for doing community service. And it has evolved into this, with collaboration with Ilya and others, it has evolved into this actual website that I hope will take fire. What is it? It's community support tools and a global marketplace to assist individuals and groups to create their own self-governing community economy. It goes all the way from a downloadable PDF compendium of what we believe is the minimum necessary information to recreate coherent communities in the event of a failure of centralized government and/or infrastructure, all the way up to the website-based Universal Community Project and Healed Earth Marketplace found at oneworld411.com. It is focused on, but not limited to, small, localized indigenous communities of people who need services. The downloadable package, in the event of loss of infrastructure or internet, includes text and slides of all relevant subsystem content. And the subsystems, I'm just going to highlight the ones here. Universal basic income communities to connect small, localized indigenous communities with the global marketplace. Then use a percentage of marketplace fees to fund universal basic income and community projects for its members. The reason for this is small indigenous communities don't need the kind of monetary support that is necessary with millions of dollars of sales. So we believe that small amounts like microloans, which helped Africa incredibly, would be the type of thing that this would promote. Small additions to people's economy that will help make ends meet. The fun, engaging community preparedness game is also part of the packet. There is voting involved, emergency communications, and deliberative democracy for community decision-making, and that is based on these citizen assembly meetings and Agora. The Healed Earth Marketplace. It is to form and run a self-sustaining universal basic income community, and it has optional earned community credits and coupons that is the legacy of the original idea by Ilya Desroches, income, gratitude as income. How to use the Healed Earth Marketplace. It is similar to Amazon or Etsy. People can donate to the Healed Earth Marketplace Universal Basic Income Fund and then participate and see how your money is distributed to individuals and small communities in need in a democratic and transparent forum. Or you can start and run your own personal online storefront, just like Amazon or Etsy. Or you can make it a community by allowing your chosen community members to post their listings in your store as well. You can list not only items for cash, but barter or even list service requests, and then offer store credits or coupons in return for those services performed. Vendors are charged a 10% commission fee. 8% of these commission fees go back into the UBI Community Fund. 2% goes to the marketplace for operational expenses. Your storefront community can administer its own 8% of commissions generated so long as it complies with the Healed Earth Marketplace's guidelines. For instance, if you just want to sign up as an individual, your 8% of fees will go into the Healed Earth Marketplace UBI Fund, and we will promote projects that help everybody who is a part of our umbrella marketplace. But you may start your own and get your funds and use them as you see fit, as long as they follow these holistic guidelines. If you choose to self-administer your sales commissions, you will not be eligible to receive Healed Earth Marketplace UBI or project funds. Vendors can also list requests for performance of services or tasks for needed items. Anyone wanting to be a provider of services can search for requests to fulfill. Donors can search for service providers they would like to reward by donating to their linked GoFundMe crowdfund. In other words, those who provide services for free can then open their own crowdfund, which is tied to their storefront, and then people can see all the services that they've performed and choose to reward them in their crowdfund. And those are gifts. They're not taxable under $14,999. And it is exactly like income earned for services in your community. There are 4 markets of exchange for such credits earned. You can exchange them individual to individual as store credits. You can sell them for cash. Under limited circumstances, they can be exchanged for cash from the crowd fund, the Universal Basic Income Fund. Individuals who act as providers for requests that are in whole or in part given for free, as I said, can start their own crowd fund, and then they can be found and donated to personally. The community creates a UBI crowd fund with community chosen guidelines attached to their withdrawal. They can have standard allotment, incremental allotments for service performed, or fund community projects. Now, donors have benefits also. If you just want to contribute money, This is a great way to do it because contributors can feel good about the investment of their money in verified products and services being provided directly within small communities with no resource drains from middlemen or bureaucracy and with less chance of large-scale corruption. There's a little description of the community preparedness game, and then we have a link to the game rules and also a link here to the original spreadsheet that came from the original idea. I'm going to then show you the store. This is our website, the Universal Community Project and Healed Earth Marketplace. It has all of our community solutions in here. Our holistic principles are listed. We have featured artists and small business showcase. And right down here, you can shop. There's nothing in there right now. I just downloaded this yesterday. It's still under construction. But here you can see is the store manager. If you were a vendor and had your own store, you could list your products, create articles, attach media in there. The coupons are how you can issue regular coupons like in Etsy or Amazon, or you can actually reward people for doing requests for you that are not exchanges of money. You can add store vendors. You can do refunds. Here's withdrawals. There are reviews and reports. And there are also places for printing up your own labels, shipping labels, keeping track of all that. So it is a complete marketplace and it is just about ready to go. And that's the idea. Thanks for listening.
Wow, thank you very much, Stacy. I must say, clearly a lot of time has gone into this, both with writing it, thinking about it, writing it, and that website you have. I didn't expect to see that. Well done. But anyway, so now we are going to, before we begin our discussion, we will vote for simple support or dissent from the idea. You can raise your hand to express support for the idea, or raise your hand to express disagreement, or if you're not sure and you want to abstain until we discuss, you can just simply abstain from voting. So for the people who agree or support this idea just presented, you can express that by raising your hand now, and I'll count the votes. 1, 2. Okay, all right, so it looks like 2 for yes. And if
I don't know, I just don't understand this totally.
Okay, well then, if you don't understand it, then probably abstaining from voting is best. But for people who, and I think none of us really understand it completely, but just generally speaking, those of us who disagree with this idea, you can express that by raising your hand. So I see 1 for disagree, and I also disagree, but there is more information needed. So that's 2 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 abstain. Okay, so we will move into discussion now. So if anyone has a question or a comment, please write hand up in the chat. Okay, Kat has raised her hand. Go ahead.
So in these communities, is it environmental? You live in an environmental community and everybody sort of gets credit for helping out within the community.
It is any kind of community that you would like to form. So your community can have its own theme, but it is just people who are part of the marketplace, who are selling products. And I imagine I am going to I'm going to have to turn my video off here. I hope my sound comes through better now. I plan on focusing on smaller indigenous communities, as I spoke of, like in Africa, they had microloans. $20 to $100 could make a difference in somebody's life or how they could start a business. So there is not going to be an enormous amount of money that is gained just from the commissions, but if it's the right type of community, it could be enough to help them. And then because it is a interface for small indigenous communities to become part of the global marketplace, I hope that people will, people who are not necessarily, like Etsy, we go to Etsy to support artists. Hopefully people will come to this community to support small indigenous people's communities that need that kind of support. And so it's an interface with the global marketplace. It's a way to bring money into their economy. And we hope that there will also be donations to the community. Universal Basic will be democratically administered based on the input of those people who show up and give their input, just the way we do the democracy here in Igora. And I hope that answers your question.
Not really, but I mean, it just seems like a different economic sort of setup.
It definitely is a different economic sort of setup, because I believe we are living in a failed state, actually, and we need to create these communities of support and community economies outside of regular economy. I would love for people to move to this kind of economy, find out how we can support each other outside of the big box items.
Well, I think it should be like also it should also think of the environment, like in stores, have just containers and have people come with containers to fill up their supplies. And the economy can be based on how much people put into it.
I agree. The community building portion of the website does hope to give information on these types of implementations you're talking about, and the containers. I personally have I'm starting to buy compostable things so that I'm not putting, I'm just shocked the number of plastics that I have to buy for convenience foods, and I want to change that. So that is something that I would have in the community portion of the pages, so that we would share ideas about the environment and all the other things that we want to do better in our world. And in addition, I believe we need this marketplace.
Okay, thank you, Stacy and Kat. My hand is up, so I will go next. So one of the concerns that I have with this idea is that in a community, neighborhood, or town, not every person is a producer of immediate goods and services. There are a lot of people who work for bigger organizations and corporations. So it's good to have space for people to exchange goods locally. My concern is that it would not be very widely used. And so I have three concerns here. That was number one. Number two is goods. The reason so many of our goods that we consume are so cheap is because they are mass produced in very big places and globally traded. So if we switch to a more local economy, things will get more expensive. It will just be more expensive to produce those things. And people already have, like, we have free trade, we have capitalism. So people already have the freedom to choose whether they want to buy something expensive that was produced in a factory, I mean, something cheap that was produced in a factory in a different country and shipped over here from far away, or something more expensive that was handmade from somewhere closer by. And the people decide for themselves what they value and what they want to buy. I just don't know whether, I mean, I think it's a good idea to instill the value of paying more for higher quality and for, practicing something that's better for the economy. It's just that we would need people to think bigger instead of just spend as little as possible, like it's a change in values and culture. And then my third concern is the basic income. I don't know how much that would be, and I don't know whether that would cause people to stop working or stop producing because they just have this basic income coming in. And then if they stop producing because they have basic income, then the thing that funds the basic income would dry up. So I don't see how that's sustainable long term. So I'm going to yield the floor to Cesare, who has his hand up next. Go ahead.
Could I answer that? That was a lot.
Oh, is that okay with you, Cesare? Could you answer right away?
Well, I don't know how you do things in Citizen Assembly Women, but that's on the host.
All right, then I'm going to let Stacy answer. Go ahead, Stacy.
Okay, as far as not being widely used, certainly, if people just want an Amazon marketplace and that kind of thing, it wouldn't work. But if people, I believe people are going to be motivated to help small communities. I think there are a lot of dollars out there where people want to support Indigenous, and it clearly is not getting where it's supposed to go. I recently heard that a bunch of money was given to Ghana for water, like $500,000 or something, and the people didn't see a penny of it. My understanding, word of mouth. And it's not the first time I've heard that kind of thing. So I believe that there are people and dollars out there who would be interested in the opportunity to participate in this kind of market and bring the small Indigenous communities to the global marketplace. As far as cheap goods, absolutely. If all you want are cheap goods, there isn't anything that's going to bring you to this marketplace. But let's talk about computer paper. How can a local Indigenous economy compete with computer paper? But we don't need to print and throw away. Paper is almost worthless in my household. You write on a little bit of a corner and you throw it away. Is that what our products should be worth to us? I don't think so. I think that paper should cost more and we should value it for what it is. It doesn't have to be bleached. There are other alternatives out there that aren't ridiculously expensive that we could use. And we would absolutely have to change our values, and we got to start someplace. I think this is a great place to start. And as far as the money for the universal basic income, I am starting with the small Indigenous communities, which I have said, like the microloans, $20 to $100 is enough to start a business in some places. Those small amounts are not going to help your regular person in the United States economy, but it could help make a big difference in a smaller community. And as far as drying up or not meeting the needs, we have feedback pipelines created within these basic income communities so that if it's not enough to actually support individuals, then they can vote. Everybody gets together and votes on how we're going to distribute these funds. And the feedback pipelines are always open. So the community takes its money and does what it needs with it in the moment. People have to be involved. I yield the floor.
All right, thank you, Stacy. Now, Cesare, you can go.
There's so many things I find wrong with this idea. I'm not even sure where to begin. Um, like the whole thing, it seems to be trying to take us backwards through time, failing to appreciate the benefits and the merits of how our society and how our economy works right now, and neglecting or resisting trying to understand how it works so that it could be better administered for what it is. I mean, if people, for example, Rosemary here, she produces her own products, like she makes her own handbags and little gift bags. She has her own business doing that stuff. I mean, she's in Grenada. It's an island nation in the Caribbean. I mean, she can sell that wherever she wants. If people want to support the economy of Grenada, they can buy her products. And I mean, she can do that. She can put her products wherever and sell them wherever. I think the system works fine. Um, and this whole emphasis on indigenous communities, like what we're all indigenous. We're all indigenous to this planet. I think this is just trying to fracturalize. I think there's a word for it. Divide us even further into. Uh, yeah, if people want to have certain cultural communities, that's great, but we all benefit by having a world economy and actually just sharing in one big market so that people can buy things that they want as cheap as possible, because that's what people want. They want good value. If you want a nicer product and pay a little bit more for it, go ahead, do it. Not everybody wants to do that. But by fracturing, the market into all these places, that just makes it less efficient. It's going to lower the quality of living for everybody. It's not good. And yeah, it's like this idea doesn't seem to eliminate any bureaucracy. It just divides it. That's about all it really does. Anyways, those are my impressions of it. I yield the floor.
Stacy, would you like to respond?
Well, maybe just a little bit. It's not limited to Indigenous communities. It's simply my focus. Anybody can join. It is sharing in the world's economy. It's just a different marketplace. There are over 30,000 of these type of marketplace downloads. I guess you're saying that everybody should shop only at Amazon. Fracture the marketplace? I don't understand that. It is part of the global marketplace. I yield.
All right, Kat, please go ahead.
Well, here in England, during Brexit, it's like Britain first, in the sense of, like, you go to the shop and you see made in England, created in England, baked in England. And it's like, it annoys me because I love Italian food. And so today I shop mostly Italian food, but it's like they have less and less foreign food here now. And that really annoys me because it's sort of gotten singular. I mean, it's good to support local farmers and stuff like that. I'm all for that, but not when you exercise and not allow other foods from other countries to come in. I think that's wrong. So I think it should be international. I think we should, support your local farmers and your local craftsmen, but also allow international food and crafts and stuff to come in.
Well, it is international. Anybody can sell whatever they want as long as it's legal.
All right, Tue, please share with us.
Thank you. As Louis and Secretary, how do you say your name? I hope I say your name right. Yeah, you two points out a lot of great things, and it make a lot of sense. I see all the challenges, two of them I want to point out too, like, okay, so pretty much is the competition between this business and Facebook and Pinterest. Pretty much they are very popular, and so a lot of people have been using them, and it's free and very easy to use them because it's been there for a while. And I think I could see a lot of challenges out there. The reason I raised my hand because I feel like this is more like a cause, a great cause for the business, and to have the program that provide such as like business for all the people in the small community is a great thing for people, like to say this this is the great support for that community. And so I raised my hand because of that. Also, another one is the environment. So I'm a big fan of like the green, golden green, especially with this TAM. It's a lot of things dealing with environment, and so I also support that as well. And it's just that because of the two area, I raised my hand because I feel like this is a great cause. And sometimes, you know, business idea, you don't know it's work or not until you really implement it and to see it's work or not. And I think my suggestion is just highlight all the challenges out there and just, you know, look at it and, you know, maybe you can figure out something and push it toward to the right direction.
Very good. Thank you, Tue. Thank you.
All right, Rosemary, it's your turn.
Thank you. I wanted to comment that I like most of this idea. I think I need to read through it though, because it's a lot of a pretty long idea. So I need to ensure that I understand all of it. So that's why I didn't really agree with it, because I didn't actually read or listen to all of it. It's a lot. But I wanted to mention fair trade. And I feel like what this sort of setup promotes is fair trade, which is a good thing, because again, fair trade goods tend to be more expensive than similar goods that are made in sweatshops. And if you're just looking at the cost, of course you're going to go with the cheaper one, but it's more something that appeals to the conscience. So like it's the cost apart from money. It's the cost of knowing that somebody wasn't treated badly while making this, you know, like pretty much working under sweatshop conditions. So that's not reflected in the cost of the item because, you know, in places with sweatshops, the governments are comfortable oppressing their own people and not having good labor conditions. Like they don't care about that. And then the people, they're, I guess, desperate. So they work in sweatshops, although they would like something better. So I feel like this sort of system where you're buying things made close to you, it sounds a bit like the same logic for fair trade, where something might be more expensive in terms of money, but then like I guess in terms of humanity or trying to create equality in the world, that like that's the price. So like you're appealing to the conscience, and it comes back to like the justification for certain types of environmental solutions, because a lot of products that are more environmentally friendly tend to be more expensive too, because certain things are not factored into the monetary costs. So yeah, I don't know if fair trade is mentioned in the idea because it was such a long idea, but I'd like to say that anything that promotes things being made, even if it ends up being more expensive, if the persons making the item are paid better wages, then I think it's worth it, because you're sort of helping to reduce poverty at the same time by spending more. Thanks.
Thank you, Rosemary. That is exactly the point. And I could definitely promote the fair trade idea more obviously. But I think something I didn't stress enough is that 8% of the fees go back to the community. In the Amazon marketplace, Amazon takes that and more. The fees that you pay for this marketplace go back into your community, except for 2%, which is a minimal amount that barely covers the cost of the administration.
Thank you, Stacy, for emphasizing those points. All right, so I would like to raise a question because I noted that with the system you presented, Stacy, there is less chance for large scale production and corruption. So there seems to be this implication that it's impossible to have large scale production without corruption, or perhaps without sweatshops or unfair trade or something like that. So my question is, what types of corruption do you associate with large scale production? And do you think that it is possible to have large scale production without corruption? And you can answer
Okay,
now
thank you.
before, so sorry.
Okay, there are two kinds of corruption. I think one of them is ads that the current marketplaces have, and they're going to unfairly give weight to people with money. So we're not going to have unfair ads and create problems for searches. It's just the regular old search engine. So that's corruption on one scale. Then there's this corruption of large scale production. And I personally, it's just a personal belief, I don't believe there are a significant number of companies who have employees who don't take advantage of their employees. Even if it's not a sweatshop, the conditions under which we work in the United States here suck. They are stressful to the point where our lives have way less quality of value. So I believe there needs to be a significant change in the way our businesses operate, period, in order to really address the corruption of our business environment, which is not healthy for probably most of our employees. And you can do that by tracking health very easily.
All right, Stacy, there are some things that I'd like to circle back with you on what you've just said, but for now, I will let Cesare speak. Go ahead.
So with these fees, these numbers, they seem kind of arbitrary. I guess I'm wondering where you're getting these numbers, 8% and 2% from. Because I'm thinking, essentially, it seems like you're imposing some kind of a tax. And the thing about taxes, and well, those are imposed by governments, the governing bodies over certain markets, right? But the reason that these governing bodies are able to do that, the reason that governments can get away with imposing taxes on their markets is because they have a monopoly over a certain piece of land, a piece of land that people want to live on. And there's going to be economy there no matter what. People are there, they're going to have an economy. So it's a monopoly. So they can get away with it. I mean, people could leave if they really want to, but most people don't. And even if if enough people wanted to leave, then there would be less people for that land. So they could, then they have more control over more land. So it strikes an equilibrium. But the point is that there is a natural monopoly over that land that's given to that government, which enables the government to get away with imposing certain taxes and things like that. But if you're creating your own market, doesn't have that advantage of having a monopoly. Like if you live in this piece of land, you have to pay taxes at this vendor because the government will come and get you. But in this, online marketplace that's fluid and people can always go around it, you create this marketplace, and if you want to do business with a vendor, you have to pay these fees. But if you can just go around that and just go to the vendor directly, which usually you'll find same vendors selling their products in different places, listing it on different services. Well, money finds the path of least resistance, typically, unless people are really intent on blowing some of their money, then they will just pay more. So the point is, by imposing these barriers that are not backed up by natural monopolies, I think you're just like sabotaging yourself. And so these fees, if there are going to be some, they need to be minimal in order to, keep the system as efficient or more efficient than any competitors. So, and then, combining with the bureaucracy of the system, I'm just wondering where you're getting these numbers from. Are these numbers going to be adjustable? If these numbers turn out to be uncompetitive, will they be then reduced? And so on, things like that. I yield the floor.
Yeah, the numbers are taken from similar marketplaces, as far as like Amazon charges actually a little bit larger overall fee. So I've tried to be competitive with the other similar marketplaces, but they are based on those. They're based on similar marketplaces, and to be competitive with them. And that 8% goes to the community, not to me. The 2%, and I'm basing on, let's say we earn $10,000 in a year, $100,000 in a year, or $1 million in a year. It's barely enough to cover the operating fees and time that is spent by the people running the marketplace. And the rest of it goes back into it in a way that is administered by the people. And as long as everything is sustainable monetarily within the marketplace, definitely these numbers are up for adaptation to make it work.
All right. So I have a question about the unfair ads that were mentioned, because the only thing that comes to mind for me right now on unfair advertising is untruthful advertising or misleading advertising. And anybody can be, it is illegal in the United States, at least, to misrepresent or state untrue things in advertising, but if anyone did that, that would definitely be unfair, and you can be a large company or a small. So could you please explain more about what you mean by unfair advertising and how that's related to larger centers of production?
I meant preferential advertising. So those people with the deepest pockets are going to be highest on the searches, and they will have their ads seen more.
Okay. I don't see much wrong with that, but I think Cesario is raising his hand. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I don't see an inherent problem with that. They have the deepest pockets because they sell good products that people want to buy, and thus they have the money to advertise them further, right?
I think that makes an assumption that isn't there.
That's how the market works.
That they, the people with the best products will have the most money. I believe there is a lot more that goes into it, into who has the money to try to promote their products. And it doesn't mean they're the best for the people by any means. And as far as search results are part of what I was talking about with the ads. So I understand that search results are manipulated by those marketplaces.
Okay, so it sounds like if search results are manipulated, that's on the search engine, not really on the person producing the services or the company producing the services or the goods. The search engine that I use, the advertised results are clearly separated from the search results, as it should be. People should know whether things are advertisements or not. For example, in magazines or newspapers, if there's a large informational ad, there is a notification somewhere on the page saying this is paid advertisement or something like that, so that people know what they're looking at. And then as for this question about whether the companies with the deepest products have the best goods. I think that in this context, what is meant by best goods is just the goods that people choose to buy. Whether they are healthy or well-made or like environmentally sustainable. People buy things for different reasons, but the point is that people are choosing to buy these things. And and so the person that produces those is rewarded when people freely choose to buy these things. So this comes back again to culture and values. We may, for example, Amazon may have bad conditions for their employees, but we, the people, are the ones who are making Amazon wealthy and allowing them to continue doing this. And so if the people decided that they have higher standards than that, then the people collectively will just stop buying from Amazon. Then Amazon would go out of business.
I think they need other avenues. They need other options, which this would be a different kind of option.
Right. Yeah. For example, Amazon offers very quick delivery and very wide selection of a so there's a very quick delivery of a very wide selection of goods. And in a local community marketplace, there's a much lower variety of goods at higher prices. And Amazon does generally have somewhat low prices. So they're not, I don't think there would be exactly comparable, but but maybe for some things, there certainly are many things you could buy off of Amazon, for example, can be bought elsewhere. But I don't think you could buy like an electronic device locally produced by your neighbor with all of the parts that those parts are assembled and brought from different places around the world. So I noticed that the idea says that this is a community economy parallel to the free market economy, meaning that they both exist at the same time. So this could be a good supplement to the larger free trade, free market, globalized economy. I think it might be worth presenting to a community that you might have in mind to see whether they like it, because that would be a way of testing the idea. I think this idea should be tested. I yield the floor. Any other comments? Cesare?
Well, I think when you're talking about, marketplaces, they're just like market goods in a sense. If you think you have a good product and if you think it's competitive and it can make you money, well, then do it. Then just put it out there, put it out into the market, so to speak, including your own marketplace. I'm thinking with my knowledge of economics and with my lack of interest in being a merchant of any sort, really, other than a merchant of ideas, but it's not really the same thing. You could use that metaphor, but not really. It's not the same thing. So I don't really have an interest in that. It's not like I would want to be a part of a startup marketplace for people to sell goods, frankly, because I'd be thinking about how the government is going to regulate it. That would be like my first thing. Like, how do you keep this legal? And that's the part where I'm actually interested in, is the actual government, the politics. So that's where my interests go. But then again, there are all kinds of you know, there were a lot of people probably who turned down Jeff Bezos and opportunities to invest in Amazon in the early stages. So you're definitely going to run into people like that, even if you do have a great idea. So, I mean, if something is compelling enough, then, you know, you just have to find people who see the vision and want to work on realizing that.
Yeah,
I don't see that vision here myself, but I would, yeah. I mean, I do think it's flawed economically, but it's also not really my interest to create something like that. And I also, and I know your emphasis on the indigenous, people. I have a different. I think we need to assimilate indigenous as well. It's different in different countries, but in the United States, we have the descendants of the colonists and the indigenous people. I think we just need to integrate the two societies into one. I think that's what we should be doing. And that's through legal means, because it's legal means that have set apart that division. Either the natives need to secede and declare independence and have their own country, or we just need to create one set of rules for everyone, eliminate any sort of division for any special treatment for any natives or colonial or whatsoever. And the apartheid in the United States, that's what we have. We have the apartheid. It's not quite as bad as South Africa, but it's there. I yield the floor.
Stacey, your response?
well, it is integrating, it is clearly integrating the smaller communities with the global economy. And this is not like a weird woo-woo thing that I've worked off on the side. This is a plug-in marketplace that is for WordPress websites. It functions the same way as Etsy or websites-based stores. And as when I hear you saying integrating the indigenous, I hear you saying make them like me. And I agree, we need to integrate the indigenous and call it the global marketplace. But I believe the global marketplace needs to come closer to the community economy and not the other way around.
Well, I will just a quick comment. I think Indigenous people should have liberty to decide for themselves whether they want to separate or integrate. That's completely their decision. I'm 2A. Please go ahead.
This question go to Stacy. Do you have the community the community for the supporter for great cause?
I'm sorry, a community to support what?
Great cause. Like for example, right? Just say I'm somebody that like to donate money to like Africa or the indigenous community for some type of great cause, and you know maybe you can create a community for business or investor or people to donate money and ask them, say, hey, look, can you, instead of donating money to the poor people, how about invest your like buy some of these product from these certain people over there in Africa or something, and so it help the economy over there. Do you have like community for people that do like join and discuss about the problem of the environment and business economy?
Well, the way I imagine this would happen, well, first of all, I have the umbrella community marketplace, which I believe individuals will sell their stuff and the commissions will come to the umbrella marketplace. And then those people who are part of it will join meetings and discuss what we would like to do with that money. And my community goals, the policies that I will put forward for where the money will be spent by our umbrella community will be listed as prioritized by the 4 necessities of life. So food, water, shelter, those types of things will be prioritized. And I have been working, it's slowed down now, on water for Ghana. So what my initial thing will be, if we get this money and we ask donors to contribute to the fund in addition to the 8% of the fees, I will have as our priority fresh water for the places that we decide to create the fresh water. So prioritize fresh water, shelter, clean food. That is where the money will go to begin with. If somebody wants to create their own sub-community within our umbrella community, they can have those 8% fees go to their community. And as long as it is in alignment with the umbrella community's policies, they can administer their funds and crowdfund donations the way that they see fit for their community based on the feedback from their community. So you have an overall place where we can hopefully be doing large projects based on people's necessities of life, and smaller communities can do the same thing within our community. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
All right. I have the floor next, and then Cesare raised his hand and he'll go afterwards. No, wait, I'll go next, and then, because I have a question for Stacy, and then Cesare can go. All right, so you mentioned, Stacy, conditions suck under, I guess, big box stores, for employees of big box stores.
Basically
And
all employees everywhere.
All employees everywhere, conditions suck.
Yes.
And so are employees taken advantage of everywhere as well?
In my experience, yes.
Okay. Well, I've worked at a lot of different places, and one of the jobs I've had really sucked, but the rest of them I think were pretty good. So my question is, do you think it's possible for big organizations to take better care of their employees and to improve conditions? Because my thought is, as organizations get bigger and bigger, things become less and less personal. There's less of an immediate, close interaction. And so it's like sort of dehumanized, although that's a strong word. I guess depersonalized might be the word that I'm looking for. Do you think there are ways to make big organizations more personal, perhaps? Have better connections, better relations, better conditions for employees without shrinking in size?
I do believe that employees could be treated well, but I believe the goal, as it says in my idea, the goal has to be the happy, healthy family. As long as the goal is some kind of bottom line or GDP growth, no, I don't believe that can happen. There has to be, like you said, a very large cultural shift.
Well, there would need to be a large culture shift either way if people choose to participate in this community marketplace instead of continuing to buy products made overseas. There would have to be a cultural shift no matter what, it seems to me. But I will let Cesare speak next. Go ahead.
You know, that whole point about their values being in line with the overall values, that sounds like an administrative nightmare. It's just like who's gonna like that's what's great about markets is that you go in there, it doesn't matter who you are, just sell your shit. If it's good shit, it sells. If it's not, it doesn't.
I
Uh,
disagree.
so
And I'd like to remind you, no profanity is allowed on this program.
oh, okay. So sorry, you just kind of took me off my role, and I'm not even sure if, but so no, I mean there are some very intentional companies, businesses that have certain values, but if you're trying to have businesses with values and then marketplaces with values, I mean, yeah, sure, it could be done, if it's worth it and if it's really gonna pay off. That's all. It just sounds like a lot of extra work. Just wanted to point that out. Maybe it's better to like have maybe transparency is a better value, and then so that the business or the whoever is the seller, maybe they don't necessarily have to align with the values of the marketplace, but they have to at least say what their values are and give like a brief description so that the consumer can judge for themselves whether that place is in line with the values or not. But you should keep it open, like kind of outsource that burden to the consumer. Maybe we'll make him feel more empowered too. So just a thought. I yield.
Yeah, the guidelines that they need to follow are baseline guidelines, and they can change them up as long as they don't create a guideline that is not holistic.
Okay, so I am about to move us into the second vote for this idea after our discussion, but before we vote again to see whether anyone's changed their mind, are there any more questions about this idea to gain clarity before we vote again? Yes, Rosemary.
Right. So I just began reading it. I was just wondering, I read the first portion because it's pretty long. But I'm wondering, is this based on the notion that people within a community are less likely to harm each other in various ways by, being greedy than people in a larger setting? I feel like it's based on this premise, which is not entirely true. That just because I read that neighbors want to help each other, but neighbors sometimes kill each other. Unless you choose to have a neighbor who's nice, but sometimes you're stuck with your neighbors, especially if you own the property. But I feel like it's based on the premise that people within a community are people who would care about each other just because they live within the same space. And I feel like that'll be lovely, but I know it's not always the case. Like, somebody closer to you is not necessarily somebody who's less evil or more likely to care about you. Family members in the same house sometimes kill each other. So I just feel like it seems to be based on this premise that once people are members of the same community, like in a village, like just because you happen to live there, it means that you automatically care about each other. And I feel like I don't think so.
Could I answer that?
Sure.
Stacy responds and then Cesare.
I am basing this on the idea that there is possible an indigenous-based type community where people do care about each other, they know each other better, they're more likely to help each other than to just go, I don't know you, so, I don't need to help you. I have been searching for this community for decades, and maybe it doesn't exist, but from what I've been reading about indigenous communities, I believe that it can be found and nurtured and expanded. Thank you.
Cesare.
So I think Stacy, you're really romanticizing like what a small community is like. And I'm wondering what personal experience do you have with that? Uh, from my understanding, your current living situation where you are, you probably don't have that right now. Uh, I don't know if, because like, if you're gonna, um,
I can answer that.
you were to try to live in a, like a local marketplace, maybe you should do that with your neighbors, like start doing that. I don't know, but I don't know if your neighborhood is conducive to that. And so maybe, especially when undertaking a large project as a part of the research, you should actually go and move to live in like a, I don't know, whatever you would think is an indigenous community and actually live there and see how people, or at least spend
I
some
have
time.
tried that.
Cool. And so, yeah, I wonder what your experiences are with
I
that,
can answer that.
because it's true. Sorry, you keep breaking my flow here. Yeah, I guess I'd like to hear your stories on, how familiar you are with indigenous communities, because they're not always going to be cohesive. The neighbors don't always like each other. They don't like necessarily want to barter for things, and um, for whatever reason. So yeah, what is your personal experience, and maybe are you considering moving to a place like that to actually start it locally where you are? I yield the floor.
Okay, Stacy.
So most recently, I was privileged to take part in or listen to a Canadian Native American initiative, and they got together and spoke. People from the community spoke about their traditions and what they do, and the elders spoke. And that is what I have found and want to create. I have decades ago gone and tried to find a Native American community that I could belong to in this fashion. And I found the Native American communities around me were terribly fractured. It was nothing like I was looking for. It was nothing like I saw in this Canadian Native American community. And so I believe it is out there, and there's barely any of it left, but I believe it can be found. And the show that I have immediately after this is called Citizen Assembly Indigenize, where we are going to get together and discuss things that we've heard about Indigenous communities that we would like to emulate in our lives so that we can recreate the type of thing that you're sneering as not being existing in real life. And it may not exist very much in real life anymore, because there have been a whole lot of people that want to just make it into Amazon.
Wait, so are you going to move to Canada? Is that
I'm not going to answer that snide remark. I'm not going to dignify that with an answer, Cesare.
okay? I mean, I'm just saying, I think you should experience it firsthand and, get a sense of the reality of things, because you might get a lot of good, even more good inspiration for it.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So Rosemary has a comment to make or a question, please.
Comment. I like the idea of keeping business within a community, having this community economy for other reasons other than like getting people closer to each other, fostering human connection. Because I've had a bits of experience with that, just sort of changing my own work setup. So I was working from home, I was tutoring at home, and a lot of my students were my neighbors' kids. And so they came over to my home because they live nearby. So it was very it was something like that. And I felt that I hardly ever left the community because they paid me cash. I didn't need to go to the bank. And then there was a grocery store within walking distance. So I spent a lot of time in the community, and I like that because it's less stressful for work. Like when you don't have to commute really long distances every day, it takes away from traffic jams, that sort of stressful lifestyle where you're running to work and running back every day, whereas you could just work from home. That's a benefit to like keeping things within the neighborhood, and also for environmental reasons too, because people tend to use less fuel for traveling. You know, it's like less emissions unless you're gonna like burn stuff in your backyard. So I like it because it sort of reduces stress and that sort of hustle and bustle. It reduces traffic, and I think it might be better for the environment. I still question if you know, people are likely to be nicer to each other, but I do think it's good for other reasons, and a balance is definitely a good thing, because we do have an issue in Grenada with traffic jams in some areas, just because a lot of people travel from the countryside to come to town to work, like in hotels and businesses, just because they're located mostly in one area. So it would have been better if they were spaced out and people work closer to homes. And it is good for families too, because that way parents could spend more time with their kids when they spend less time commuting to and from work. So there are other benefits to it, I think, that may not have been highlighted.
Agreed, exactly. Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you, Rosemary. I was going to comment that looking up very quickly for some information, violent crimes on Indian reservations are 2.5 times the national average, and women are raped or sexually assaulted at 4 times the national average.
I heard about those statistics, and the
Excuse
reason
me,
for-
Stacy, may I finish? I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I need to finish. Thank you. All right, I was going to say that doesn't mean that small communities cause these kinds of things to happen. It's just that just because people are in a small community doesn't mean that they're all going to get along and be happy. And I have lived on a small island community for, I think, about 5 months in Michigan. And I was friends with one of the year-round long-term residents. And he said that he didn't like living there because everybody knew everyone's business and there was so much gossip and drama. So I think it's good to have multiple sides to the story and having a realistic view on how things might turn out and what things might be popular. Okay, go ahead, Stacy.
I have heard about those statistics as well, and I believe that a big part of it is just the fact that the society that they're being pushed into is just a total absolute mess. And some of those statistics I have heard are manipulated to just make it look like that's bad there. And as far as any community can have a poor way of working together, and clearly our world does not have the answer for how to work together, but I believe that I am providing a really decent support for the functioning of these communities in a better fashion than the open marketplace and what we have now, because I have the holistic principles, the deliberative democracy, and the multiple manager where everybody gets their feedback put in.
All right, thank you, Stacy. So with that, I see that Stacy needs to leave soon. So we are going into a closing vote for this idea. If you are in support for this idea, please express that by raising your hand. One. All right, I do not see any hands. Oh, Cesario supports this idea.
All right. I support Stacy doing it and seeing what happens and trying it. what I support.
All right. Are you willing to support this idea in Agora?
No.
All right. All right. And for people who disagree with this idea after discussion, you can express that by raising your hand. Okay, so we did leave some people who had to leave, but we have abstains and 2 disagreements. But if anyone here in the future wants to read this idea more in depth and support it in Agora, Stacy, could you give some directions on where to find it and where to support it?
You want the link, are you saying?
Is this idea in Agora?
It is. It's my number 23 idea in Agora. It's idea number 1264.
1264 and number 23. Okay, so that means that this is the idea that you have given the most weight and importance to in your ideological profile. I see you've put that in the chat, and I will put it in the description of the video in case people want to read it and express support. We will move into wait. So before we move into closing comments, I'm going to ask Cesare, since he's one of the people who voiced disagreement with the idea, is there any way, what would it take for you to support this idea, Cesare?
I just, I don't think this idea is based on sound economics. But at the same time, if there's something uniquely valuable about it, then it just needs to be tried. I think markets get better the more open they become. So unless you have a natural monopoly, then on something, then whatever you have is going to collapse. So yeah, I mean, it's not something I would support.
Okay, thank you, Cesare. And as for myself, what would it take for me to support this idea? I think the removal of the basic income part of it and voiced desire for this idea from a community. If a community wants to adopt this idea, then I would support their decision to adopt this idea, if that makes sense. Okay, we will move into closing comments. I will let Stacy have the final word, of course, since she presented this idea. All right, Kat, would you like to share your closing comments with the group?
I just think it needs maybe a bit more thought. I think the motivation is good. It's just maybe I'm not an economic person, so maybe it just needs more detail on that side.
Thank you, Kat. Oh, please continue. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that's my closing comments.
All right, thanks. Rosemary, your closing comments, please.
Great. The only reason I didn't support the idea is because I wanted to finish reading it through to see like exactly how it's worded, because I know Stacy read it, but it was so much content and I wasn't fully attentive. But I do like that it's been suggested. I think alternative lifestyles are a good thing. So the suggestion is out there. I just don't know if I'd agree to like forcing it, but I think it's good to let people know that, you know, a different style may exist and to try it out just in case you're not satisfied or happy with your current setup. But yeah, I want to read it through, and I did find it in Agora during the conversation, so I'll continue reading it and I may support it. I just need more time to think about it.
Thank you, Rosemary. Cesare, your closing comments?
So I must say, I'm gonna have to listen to that one part again about what Stacy said with her experience and with indigenous communities. I kind of missed it. I was busy making another snide remark in the chat. Uh, but but yeah, I do think like I don't know what your background in economics is, Stacy, but I think you're trying to challenge something here that's fundamental, and that's a problem. I do appreciate you trying to bring communities to, well, maybe bring a community together or create communities. That's good. Um, Creating communities is really not easy. You have to find something that's going to unify people in opposition to the things that are trying to divide them. So it has to be a very good reason. In a way, Amazon is kind of like a community. It's just a community of traders. It's a community of people who want to get the lowest price. And that's a pretty strong incentive to bring people together. That's why it's been so successful. And it's been really good at giving people things at the lowest price. Amazing. So yeah, and maybe, yeah, maybe exploring at helping some communities that are already established. But I think you would actually have to be, it would be kind of hypocritical to be trying to help establish communities without actually moving and living in those communities, without facing their realities. And also, I just want to point out that Rosemary is, you know, on an island nation of like 111,000 people. It's her whole nation is, you could almost say, a community, or the different parishes that it's divided into. Grenadian people are super friendly, from my experience. They're super nice. And Rosemary has offered me to come and visit Grenada. I think you might actually want to go check out Grenada. You know, that like that might be a very interesting place to start. That maybe that's a place that has a lot of potential for, you know, for this kind of development, maybe fine tuning that community. So I intend to go to Grenada one day, so I want to check it out. Like it's beautiful, right in the Caribbean. It's, anyways, Rosemary will tell you all about it, but that might be a good place to start community building too. Anyways, I yield the floor.
Okay. Well, in closing, I will say, I mentioned before that this is an idea that should be tested, and I think the suggestions Azadi put forth is a good idea to be part of a community that you might want to implement this in. And then even just presenting it to communities and asking them about whether they would like this and whether they think it would be popular and whether they support it or not, and what it would take to support this. More testing, more discussion on it, I think is good. But again, thank you for your creativity and desire to improve economics and worker and producer wellness. So I do thank you for those things, Stacy. Your turn, Stacy, for closing remarks, and then I will take back the floor for a minute.
Thank you all very much for your time and attention to this. I received a lot of good feedback that I can take and do things with. So, and thank you, Lois, for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you once again, Stacy, and thank you once again, all of the attendants. We welcome your voice and your discussion. Please check out the link in the description to learn about more upcoming events that we have. Next week, we will be discussing the Paycheck Protection Act on Mother's Day. So we hope you'll be able to join us. But until then, I wish you well and I wish you a good day. Thank you, everybody.